Hello everyone, welcome to another Game Talk. This one's special, Will. You want to know why?
Why?
Because there's a spoiler thing.
We're spoiling things.
I'll put a spoiler tag.
Okay.
I'll put a spoilers. Just so people know that if you come ye be not beyond this point.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Be not
If
beyond.
y'all haven't beaten Spider-Man, back away.
Yeah, if you've
Back
not
away.
beaten Spider-Man for the PS4, I haven't beaten all Spider-Mans before that, but this one specifically, Marvel Spider-Man 2018. If you've not beaten it, we need you to leave because we're going to talk about the full story and how it made us feel.
It did kind of make me feel things.
It gave me a lot of feels.
Yeah. I mean, you're the one that cried on camera.
Yeah, one tear.
I may have cried. No one will ever know, though, because I'm not going to admit to it. I'm just kidding.
That's true.
I didn't actually cry in this game. But
Why are you going to put up this macho facade? Why are you going to front like that?
I did cry 4 times through The Last of Us. I was just saying it was more of it wasn't even a macho thing. It was more of a like, wow, can you guys believe I didn't cry at this game?
Oh, okay.
Because
The opposite.
Yeah,
You're
pretty
throwing
much.
away the macho facade.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I gotta get in the right headspace. Will I gotta get in the right? I feel like I gotta get in the right. I gotta remember everything.
It's been a while since you beat the game.
It's been a while since I beat it.
Because this game's been out for like 3 months now, almost, Keith. It's crazy to me that the beginning. Yeah, it came out the beginning of September, and that was 3 long months ago.
Yep,
3 short months. They don't feel very long to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually just finished this game recently, so that's why we took so long to do this.
Yep.
Because as some of the folks at home may know, I do not have a PlayStation 4. I have an Xbox One. We'll make a video about why that happened at some point.
Yeah.
Because there's really no good reason for me to own an Xbox One and not a PlayStation 4. Luckily, though, I got my boy Kevin McAbee. He's got my back.
Friend
he
of
let
the
me
show.
borrow it. Friend of the show, Kevin McAbee. He let me borrow it for God of War earlier this year. And then I was like, yo, man, Spider-Man's coming out in September. You got to let me get it back for that. And he was like, yeah, I'll let you do that.
So just so you know out there, if you're ever trying to make video content, know that you don't have to own everything. You can just bum it off your friends.
That's true. Yeah. Yep.
Don't let that stop you.
There are good things to having your biggest fans of the show also be your best friends.
Yeah.
Because they can help you make stuff.
And usually that's how it goes.
Yeah.
When you
but if any of you guys aren't my best friend and you want to be a big fan of the show, please do. Maybe you'll become one of my best friends through this.
Yeah.
So
hopefully so.
Yeah.
Leave comments and we'll talk to you all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, Will, let's get started with Spider-Man.
Let's get started on Spider-Man, Keith.
First of all, this Spider-Man takes a fairly different route from any other reboot Spider-Man or something. Because a lot of times a Spider-Man game will, walk you through becoming Spider-Man. But sometimes they don't. Maybe it's a 50-50 thing.
Yeah, and even if they don't, it's normally not 8 years since he became Spider-Man. Yeah.
Even though it's somewhat like a kind of a new start. It's been a long time since the last Spider-Man game. You kind of would expect if someone's going to start off their new Spider-Man franchise, they might start you off becoming Spider-Man. But you don't. Right. 8 years after.
And you have a history with a lot of these villains.
Exactly.
Which is what's really, really cool.
Which is great. It's a very new, I think, take on a Spider-Man story in a video game. Because it's not often that you find Spider-Man already with a familiarity with a group of villains. Like this is after he's already really done the big body of his work after 8 years.
Yeah, most of the villains, at least that we know of that exist in this universe, are in prison for most of this game. So yeah, he's put them away.
But spoiler alert.
Yeah,
they get out.
I don't want to go ahead and make this too front loaded, lump too much praise onto this game already. But I would like to say that this is probably my favorite Spider-Man story. Out of any movie, out of any comic book, out of anything I've ever read.
Oh yeah, me too.
I love it.
I'm willing to put that in.
Love it. Yeah,
it is so good. The Spider-Man Homecoming, definitely a good movie. Probably
definitely
up there with
movie.
a good story. The first Spider-Man, if you'll go, we're going to plug a recent Tank Talk from Tank Media Network. Brandon and I discussed why the Green Goblin is a underrated Spider-Man villain.
He's really good. Because Doc Ock usually gets most of the credit. At least from that original trilogy, people are like, Doc Ock was the best, but Green Goblin was really good too.
Yeah. Brandon showed me some clips. I forgot how just terrifying he was as a villain. Old lady in a burning building turns around and shrieks at him.
That movie freaked me out in the theater.
Yeah, and then Mary Jane is praying the Lord's Prayer, and he
Yeah.
rips the side of her house off with a bomb and tells her to finish it.
Yes.
And she's like, deliver us from evil! That's scary,
that
dude.
Is intense,
That
dude.
is scary.
Yeah, I was like 6 when I saw that in theaters, dude.
Yeah,
it was intense.
Me too. I cried throughout it. Like, there's not a lot of Spider-Man villains that make you claim to be pure evil, but Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin did. But we're not talking about that. It was a good Spider-Man story, but I would say probably not good as this as far as stories are concerned.
Yeah. Norman Osborn might not have been as cool in this game as he was in the movie because he wasn't really the Green Goblin. No. Even though we did see, we're kind of skipping ahead at the end. We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. We'll see. We saw something.
So this game starts off, Keith, and the one thing that I will say, one big complaint about this game is I feel like the pacing's a little off.
Okay.
Granted, I didn't do a ton of the collectible stuff. I found most of the backpacks. I would take pictures of the landmarks that it would let me take pictures of them. Sometimes I would get my camera out, I would be pointing at it, it would be marked on the map that this is a landmark. It looks like a landmark to me.
Yeah.
Start taking pictures, it never says subject in frame.
Gotcha.
So I was just having issues with that. I don't know.
Some landmarks, there are pieces of it that you have to take a picture of. Like
Okay. I figured that was probably it.
Like the bar with no name, that tag is on that whole building, but the bar with no name is on the bottom of that building with like and it doesn't have a name. It's not marked.
Yeah.
So you have to, if you don't know what it is, you have to find it. And so I would say that might have been your problem because I didn't encounter any sort of like technical issues with mine.
Yeah, that was pretty much it in terms of like I just couldn't figure out how to take pictures of some things. And then a lot of the times, Keith, like I just felt a sense of urgency in this game that like I don't have time to go around finding backpacks, or I don't have time to go around. There's so many little things. I don't even know what all the little things are. Like sometimes I would see a pigeon. Did you do that side quest where it's that guy?
I did all the side quests.
Okay. Oh yeah, you did. You got the platinum. But sometimes I would see there would be like a mission that's going on, like rhinos wrecking things over here in the whatever the yard or whatever. The what do you call them? Like a construction yard. Rhinos over here wrecking stuff. Go over there and solve that. And then a pigeon would be flying by, and I'm just like, I don't have time for this.
Right.
I'm not doing it. I would just be in the moment of it. So I feel like I kind of crit past a lot of this game just because the story had a lot of urgency to it.
Yeah, there was a lot of urgency certainly at parts, but there were those parts where after a mission there is no next mission.
Yeah,
I remember he'll say like,
"Well, gotta go on, duty or whatever."
Yeah, go out in the city, like
and
I'll see what's going on or whatever. And I took that as an opportunity to do a lot of those. I'm the same way. Like if I get a phone call that says, "Yeah, we need to go." All 4 of my most dangerous villains are out and about. Like, I'm not going to go look for pigeons. I'm not going to go look for backpacks. Yeah. I did all that I front-loaded the game in a way. Like, when they revealed landmarks, backpacks, stuff like that.
Just went ahead and did them.
Whenever it was, kind of calm, I was doing Wilson Fisk stuff, and then the demons were out, but it wasn't so urgent as when I did that. And I'm thankful for it because I would have done the same thing. I would have. Or I just saved it all for the stuff I didn't do. I saved for the end after, the credits.
Oh, yeah, because you can't do that. Sorry, I didn't want
Red Bull getting you.
Yeah, it's getting me. Whoa, it just completely took away what I was going to say. Keith, I'm a little bit nervous in this episode. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's just because like Spider-Man is such a big game. It's like one of the biggest games of the year for me. But I got a little bit of nerves. What was I going to say? Okay, so I guess
we haven't even started the story yet.
We haven't started the story. Okay, so this story starts off with Fisk, correct?
Wilson Fisk.
Which is Kingpin.
Kingpin, absolutely Kingpin.
Kingpin.
Ruler of New York.
Pretty cool boss fight at the beginning.
I would agree.
Yeah. What were you gonna say? You were gonna say.
I was saying something like he's like the gangster ruler of New York. If he claims to keep everything in check.
Yeah, and it seems like he's probably Spider-Man's main villain up at this point, right? Because they have a lot of history. He's like he was like his first villain, it seems like, or one of them.
Yeah, and he does some funding, I think he funds some of the other villains a lot of times.
Oh yeah. So they have a big history.
Yes.
But then, so after that, was there anything else you wanted to say about this? This has a very bombastic opening.
Absolutely.
Very fun.
Which isn't really, it takes you through the game mechanics. There's a lot of, it just immediately opens up with this game at its core is fun.
Yes.
Like the first scene is I like the opening. The first scene is Spider-Man he's in the bed, his phone rings, he stands up, puts on his mat, like he smells his suit and it stinks, it's not been washed, he puts on his
and it's
his
playing
suit.
Cool little music.
Yeah, it's playing music, he tosses some toast in the toaster, and then when it pops up, he webs it and grabs it.
Yeah.
The phone's ringing and there's like the police scanner's going off and then someone's calling him and he chooses the police scanner and he jumps out the window, and then the command press R2 to swing.
Yeah.
It's the only way you can start this game is with zipping, with swinging.
Yep.
And then you swing for a couple minutes as you listen to, like you get an idea for the phone call, the radio, like you have a relationship with this police, Yuri Watanabe.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is a name I recognize from the very beginning, but
it seems kind of familiar, but I don't really remember her as a. She's like his Commissioner Gordon, though. It seems kind of right. Okay.
She sends him on missions, and he's like, "I really want to help. Can I help?" And she gives him the go ahead to go and help out and try to keep the bad guys from getting to the backup for the police and stuff. And it opens up. You're in the story, and you're like, okay, Wilson Fisk is my dude. Maybe that's the bad guy, and then we swing on, and it's absolutely wonderful. And you get to how you refer to the bombastic opening of climb Wilson Fisk Tower.
And even the I knew the swinging was going to be good in this game, Keith. But I didn't know how good the combat was going to be. I didn't know how everything was just going to link together so well. Like, you punch one guy up in the air, punch him around, then you web some other guy up. You can either bring him back up to you in the air and also punch him in the air, or you can web yourself to him and punch him on the ground. It's just punch him anywhere.
Dude, so I agree. I didn't know, like, I knew this was going to be a square-heavy game. You know, punch.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's enough enemies, there's enough going on, or just they throw so much at you in the fights where you're always pressing a button so you don't really get tired of it, you know?
Yeah.
But to this day, I can turn on the game and punch people and still enjoy it. It's not a chore to me.
And it's not really just a square fest, because I feel like you probably press square the most, but you're pressing triangle a lot too. You're pressing X a lot to do those jumps. You're pressing anytime your head little spidey sense happens. And I love that every time you dodge something, Keith, it's not the same animation.
Yeah.
Depending on where something's coming from, he'll dodge a different way, or he'll have a different animation.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems a lot more dynamic.
Or you dodge into the wall, he sticks to it and then jumps off.
Yeah, and then you jump off of it. Yeah.
Oh, the game's so good!
Yeah, that's really good.
I want to play now
so
instead of talking to you about it.
Yeah.
So you fight Wilson Fisk and you put him away. You know? Real quick. He's gone.
Yep.
Wilson Fisk in jail.
Isn't that... Well, no, then there's one more big villain, and then it goes silent on big stuff for a while, other than you're just hanging out with the demons.
Yeah.
And Martin Lee, who you eventually find out is Mr. Negative.
Mr. Negative.
Who I was not familiar with Mr. Negative.
Me
Were
neither.
you? Okay.
Nope.
I looked him up. Apparently, he was first introduced in the comics in like 2007.
Okay.
So he's a new guy.
Kind of fresh.
Yeah,
which
he's
is cool.
Yeah.
You want to use a new guy for the new game. I'm with that.
And I was a little bit worried that he was going to be the main villain for a while, but then I was like, no, there's no way he's going to be the main villain. Yeah. But then, Doc Ock was getting set up. Once Doc Ock, you see his arms, I was like, oh yeah, we're going here in this game.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't entirely sure if we were going to become Doc Ock in this game, but once you see those arms, you're like, yeah, we're going there. We're going places. But so yeah, and then you fight Shocker.
Yeah, Shocker.
You fight Shocker twice.
Right. Shocker gets out of jail, and that's kind of how they're setting up the Mr. Negative stuff too, is because Shocker gets out of jail, and Yuri is saying, okay, Shocker's gotten out of jail. It's weird because the guy who let him out had this weird glowing eyes, and he died. He shot himself, or he died in busting Shocker out of jail, and Shocker's working for somebody. Spider-Man's like, oh, Shocker, you sound scared, or whatever, and Shocker, does his thing, which is he was one of the original villains, like the original Spider-Man too. Like back in the PlayStation 2 days or whatever. You fought him, I think, at least once, but he's easy to put away. His boss fight for me on Ultimate difficulty, now that I'm going back on my New Game Plus, a little bit more difficult.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you
would hope so.
Yeah, he hits you once with the shockwave and you're dead.
Oh dang. Okay.
But he's not much of a dynamic villain in this one. He's got a cool suit, but he's easy to beat. Spider-Man treats him like somebody like a bug that got out. He's easy to put back. Yeah,
he's a supervillain, but he's not very smart. He's not very strong necessarily. Exactly. Yeah, and I love that. That's one thing I love about. We're kind of skipping around, which I mean, Game Talks is notorious for this. We're not very good at sticking to a regiment. But one thing that I really liked about this game is that there's an emphasis on calling, differentiating between just a regular bad guy and a supervillain.
Yeah,
and it seems like supervillains are kind of rare up to this point.
Sure,
at least or most of them that we know of are put in jail. But whenever they start talking, whenever Yuri starts talking about supervillains, and especially whenever Doc Ock gets into the picture, and she's like, "This might be the smartest supervillain we've ever dealt with."
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, because you haven't really dealt with Green Goblin yet. You haven't dealt with, so he's like the first actually genius supervillain.
Absolutely.
Whereas opposed to a lot of them up to this point have just been thugs with armor or thugs with superpowers.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Let's talk about Doc Ock as a character, because I realized this playing back through it. Spider-Man, the first time Doc Ock calls him, the subtitles even say boss or somebody like that. It doesn't say Dr. Octavius.
Yeah.
So the first time you get called by your boss, Peter, we need you to work at the lab or whatever, and Peter says, time to go to my main job or real job or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know who his boss is. But then you walk in, and then you kind of, his look is very Octavius-like.
Yeah. Oh, I knew immediately.
But I didn't. I was, but his voice and what he was saying, and then the animatronics, and eventually he says Dr. Octavius. I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
I don't remember Peter work. He sort of he always like an intern for Doc Ock.
Kinda. I think in the movie, didn't he? I don't know if he was as close to him as he is in this game, but I feel like he knew him at least, because I know that he went to some demonstrations for the arms technology and the tritium. What was it called? Tritium?
Yeah, I think so.
And
that woman dies. That's scary.
Yeah,
piece of glass kills her.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Doc Ock. I didn't realize that there was going to be such a relationship there.
I didn't really either.
But they're doubled down, which I appreciate. We crave stories. We crave that relationship. And it made it. I like that Peter Parker It's not like, okay, my dad's gone, Uncle Ben's dead. I'm my own father figure now. I just find my own way. Like Peter Parker is looking for someone to look up to.
Yeah.
And I imagine that is difficult for him being a superhero, you know?
Yeah.
He's got super spider powers. And again, we're talking about like he's a real person, but he's got super spider powers. There's not a lot of people that can match how smart he is or how, just physically able he is. But he looks up to Dr. Octavius.
You gotta have someone to aspire to.
Exactly. And you can tell from the beginning. You can tell from the very beginning he looks up to Octavius. He doesn't like disappointing him, though he has to because of his Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah.
And he's even a little bit comfortable whenever he comes in and Dr. Octavius discovers him working on the spider suit.
Yeah.
And he says like, "Oh, I didn't realize you knew him," or whatever. I didn't realize you helped him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Peter's like, "We can't tell him."
It was something like he was like, "Oh, I had no idea," and Peter's like, "Well, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't think it would be safe." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess it will be kind of unsafe if you make his costumes." And it's like, "Oh, you think I make this?" Okay,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the relationship with him, it gets to the point where they care about each other so much. So you're like, "How is this going to go bad? I need to know how this is going to go bad." And
this is how it goes bad.
Exactly.
That little thingy.
And eventually, it definitely does. And we can come back to Doc Ock later on when we get to the end, but I really appreciated they made it a real story that I cared about.
Yes,
with that relationship.
And there was a sense of dread every time I was hanging out with Doc Ock.
Absolutely, because
you're just like, man, I know this ain't gonna go good. I know I'm gonna have to fight you. I know we're gonna say some mean stuff to each other. I know that one of us is gonna be like, man, you were like a father to me, or you were like a son. Like I knew that was coming. It's like, man, this is gonna be rough.
Dude.
But yeah. So then, Keith, the middle of this game, honestly, like I've played a bunch of this game the first few days I had it. Got to about the beginning of Act 2, because it's separated into acts. I didn't notice till Act 3, but it is actually divided up.
Is it?
Yeah.
It says Act
2. I don't know if it says Act, but I know that there's 3 sections.
Okay.
And I remember whenever the third one started, I was like, oh, okay, this is probably near the end. But yeah, I did most of the first third of the game in like a few days, and then for the second, I was doing like a mission a day for the second portion of the game. Just I don't really know why. I mean, something about I was just not feeling this whole demons thing. Like I was looking for more of the thing I loved about the Arkham games is that it was just a constant rogue gallery of villains. You're constantly fighting a new villain. But the fact that we were hung up on these demons for so long, it was kind of a drag to me. Yeah. I mean, the end of the game makes up for it, and it was fun the whole time. Every time I was getting into a fight with someone, I was having a good time. Yeah. But in terms of like story urgency and like me feeling like I was super connected to the beginning of this game, then in the middle it was kind of dragging a little bit, and then the end where it's just everything's bam, 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 bam. That's when it was like really started rolling for me.
Well, definitely, I think it did slow down. But I wonder if they didn't do so intentionally a little bit to kind of lull you into this is Spider-Man's deal. All the time there's something going wrong.
Yeah.
And then, but in the middle is where we have Jefferson Davis.
Yeah.
We have Officer Davis.
Hey, Keith, real quick, isn't it amusing that his name's Jefferson Davis? Isn't that kind of amusing? Like,
yeah.
Why'd you have to name him Jefferson Davis? Anyways.
Because you have Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederacy, but also Jefferson Davis Hall from The Dukes of Hazzard. You ever see The Dukes of Hazzard?
No.
Oh, man. Boss Hogg?
No.
I used to love Dukes of Hazzard, man.
I might have watched some at Edisto Beach back when I was like 5 years old, maybe.
I watched that with my granddaddy.
Ooh, that's a good granddad show.
Yeah, it is. Whenever I go over to his house, it was like we had a couple box sets of Walker Texas Ranger, a couple box sets of Dukes of Hazzard, and my granddad was the most patient man on the planet. We had like 2 box sets of Dukes of Hazzard. I'm a little kid. It's new to me every time.
Yeah.
But he would sit in his chair and we would watch Dukes of Hazzard together, and it was some of my best times with him. I enjoyed that.
Shout outs to Granddad.
Shout outs to Granddad. Shout outs to Jefferson Davis Hogg.
Yeah.
Back to Spider-Man. Jefferson Davis.
Oh yeah. So I guess there is a lot of because in my mind the story just kind of stopped for the middle of it, but there is actually a lot of stuff going on. Just with Aunt May, just with Miles, and there's getting Miles a job at the feast.
Exactly. And there's a build. It's like the flash, shock, and awe at the beginning, and then it kind of builds this. We've got a new villain because I think you maybe it's supposed to like push into your mind that this happened with everybody. There's a build with all these villains that Spider-Man had to put away, and this is just the next in the line of villains.
Yeah.
And there is that build, and it gets pretty dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go back through my playthrough, there's at least one point where I say, wow, I did not expect this game to be so dark.
Which part was that?
Whenever there's a bomb, whenever Mr. Negative blows up a crowd of people, and they're just dead people everywhere, and
Jefferson Davis, R.I.P.
Yeah, all right. So Jefferson Davis, I knew as soon as we had a named cop Bad news.
That's true. Yeah.
Bad news. Jefferson Davis, because every other cop besides Yuri Watanabe is unnamed.
Yeah, it's like, bro, man, just don't tell me your name. Now that I know something awful is going to happen.
Exactly. And I should have started at the beginning, but I want to, and I've mentioned it before, I'm sure, on the air, and I mentioned the end of the series, but the theme of this game, to me, is Spider-Man always wins, Peter Parker always loses. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man gets his guy. Spider-Man can do things that Peter Parker can't. Spider-Man can beat you up and put you in jail. Mm-hmm. Peter Parker cannot stop people he loves from dying. Yeah. And that's what makes this story so rough for me. Yeah. Is that Peter Parker because they're the same person, obviously. Mm-hmm. But Peter Parker can always win, but every time he wins, he loses. Yeah. And it sucks. Yeah. But I think that's the kind of the theme of this game is, again, great power comes with great responsibility. Yeah. Yeah. They really did just perfectly encapsulate Spider-Man. They condensed it, turned it into a video game, and made it happen. Yeah. I really do think that the pacing thing, Keith, I knew this was going to happen. I knew you were going to talk me out of my slight misgivings of this game and make me like it more. So thank you. Okay. But one thing that I was thinking, I mean, I guess we're just going to probably just steamroll into the end now because we kind of talked about so Jefferson Davis, they paint Jefferson Davis as this selfless cop character who's okay to help Spider-Man. He doesn't care. We can talk about what's his name? The guy that you like so much, because his name is the news guy. What's his name? The news guy. The guy on the podcast. J. Jonah Jameson. J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We can talk about him a little bit to lighten things up. But Jefferson Davis is painted as this guy some of the cops have misgivings towards Spider-Man. He's taking their work, but Jefferson Davis wants to help people. Jefferson Davis and Spider-Man are the same in that they want to help people no matter what. Yeah. If it takes driving a cop car into a big bus, if it takes trying to stop a train with your body. That worked last time. Yeah, they're gonna save people. But Spider-Man is always going to have this, guilt because Jefferson Davis is receiving an award. Mr. Negative blows up that place with the award because Norman Osborn is there. Mm-hmm. And Jefferson Davis dies. He leaves behind his son, Miles Morales, which I guess isn't his son's son. Would have to be... Yeah, because they have different last names. Leaves them behind. And Miles, we know what happens with Miles. But I think that whole scene was pretty heavy. Mm-hmm. Whenever those people die and you have... Mr. Negative is walking around with a sword, and people that are still alive, he is stabbing them until they are dead. Yeah. That's dark. Yeah, that is dark. That's messed up. This game's rated T. Exactly. Yeah. That's messed up. Yeah. And you're crawling through there as Miles Morales. Mm-hmm. You're playing as the guy whose dad is dead. Yeah. And he's seeing all this stuff happen, and so I think we're setting up for hey, Peter, you got a tragic backstory? Well, so do I, dog. Yeah. But I think it was slow. But it was a slow ache the middle of the game. It was. I think it was meant to give some depth and I don't know, make hardness. Make the hits hit harder at the end. Yeah. And one thing I was thinking about, while I was playing through this game, I guess during that lull that I was talking about, I was like, man, I couldn't figure out why they chose to tell this story at this point in time. It is really cool that he's got all this history with all these villains and everything, but it just seemed like there's not really a whole lot going on if I'm not super invested in this whole demon storyline. It's weird to me that they chose to focus on this era of Peter Parker's life. But then once the end happens, you're like, that's why they told this whole story. Yeah. Because Aunt May, doesn't make it. This is spoiler mode, folks. Oh. But yeah, she doesn't make it, Keith. And she... How many tragic origins does this one superhero need? He needs a lot. It's it's Batman. You were a kid and your parents are dead. Great, no big deal. That's fine. I understand that's hard for you. But you were a kid. You have your whole life ahead of you. Also, you're a billionaire. Yeah. That's got to fill the void a little bit. Yeah. I understand your backstory. And then later on, I don't know if Alfred ever dies in Batman lore, but... Batman. But I'm sure in some universes of Batman he dies, but Spider-Man. Guess what? You're a kid. No parents. They're gone. They're dead. Your parents are dead. So now your aunt and your uncle have to raise you. Oh, your new father figure dies because of you? Ouch! That ought to be enough to make you a superhero. No, Marvel says. No, says Sony, because you still have someone else to love, and we're taking her away. Sorry. And you could have saved her. Yeah. But you want to save more people, don't you? Oh, because again, you did it. It's your guilt because you could have. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We can continue later on.
Yeah. I shouldn't have jumped just right into that.
You lit my fire early.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
I guess we should something about.
We'll get back to her.
Okay.
We'll get back to her.
Yeah.
Before that happens, though, the big breakout at the prison.
Right.
And that's when I'm like, ooh, now the story is starting.
Because we've put Mr. Negative in prison.
Yeah. And then he gets broken out along with a bunch of other guys.
Absolutely.
Yep. And then this was the trailer from E3. Do you remember that? And it was a secret at the end. Like, who's the guy that shows up at the end?
Who is that?
Yeah. And it's Doc Ock.
Surprised me.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming, dude.
Yeah, it should have made sense. I mean, because Doc Ock was starting to go a little bit crazy based on the last few cutscenes you'd had with him. But the fact that he just he's there in full Doc Ock garb, and he's broken people out of prison, like he's further along in this whole villain thing than I thought he was. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think that's part of the story. What they're trying to say is that he's further along in this. He was doing bad stuff before we knew it.
Yeah, he was planning this for a long time.
Yeah,
premeditated. Yeah, all he needed was that little thingy to loosen him up a little
betrayal.
bit. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Betrayal, man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Dr. Octavius trying to help people. Peter tries to stop him from putting that thing on because it's not ready.
Yeah.
But Doc Octavius also has a bad backstory because he's diseased.
Yeah.
He's got MS or something.
Yeah.
It's degenerative and he's going to die.
Yeah.
Eventually, he's going to lose. He's going to lose use of his body.
Yeah.
He's going to die.
Yeah.
And so that's his catalyst for being bad because he's going to break these people out, and this is catalyst for putting this thing on there.
Mm-hmm. It's going to give him arms that work, and he's also going to take down Norman Osborn because they got a history. Norman Osborn stole his stuff. Mm-hmm. Very Breaking Bad-ish.
Also, not only that, but Norman Osborn, we learn, is responsible for Mr. Negative. Him and Dr. Octavius.
Yep.
Because
back in the 80s.
They're trying to fix this little boy, and they end up giving him powers that kills this little boy's parents.
Yeah.
Who are in the room. And that kind of Dr. Octavius takes that one way, and Norman takes that the other way, which also gives Dr. Octavius this history with this kid. He's trying to do right by this guy, Martin Lee.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect storm. Let's break everybody out of jail.
Yeah. And light Norman Osborn on fire.
Dude.
Yeah.
Rough times.
It gave me real Breaking Bad vibes, though. I mean, we did this in God of War 2 where I constantly... Everything that I love, I just relate it back to Breaking Bad. But just the idea that Otto Octavius is like this really smart guy that just never caught a break. People kind of took advantage of him. People took his life's work. All that stuff. Got a chip on his shoulder. That kind of thing. It just really... It made me think of Walter White.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Good stories have these, the veins that go through all of them somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, not every good story has a character like that, but
Yeah.
a lot of good stories do because I think they make you want something for a character.
Yeah.
And we want everybody to be okay, but it's not possible.
Maybe not everybody. But anyways, Keith, so what else?
We're close to the end.
We're close to the end.
So all the villains break out. Do you want to talk about the Mary Jane Peter relationship before we get there?
Yeah.
Because that's a big relationship. I'd like to hit all the big relationships. So we've hit Dr. Octavius.
Yeah.
Aunt May, we understand their relationship. Aunt May works at Feast. She is a big-time humanitarian. She works at the same organization that feeds homeless people with Martin Lee. Martin Lee started it.
Yeah.
So that's a big, of course, Peter Parker, Aunt May. Really strong relationship. We don't need to talk about that. Miles Morales is an important one I would like to discuss briefly. But let's talk about Mary Jane.
Okay. Real quick before we do that, can I just sing my praises for JJJ real fast?
Of course, yeah, please
Loved
do.
him. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Reminded me of Alex Jones. All of his conspiratorial thinking on there. And my favorite line of his, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he's talking about how Rhino broke out of prison or something. I don't think it's the big prison break at the end. I think he was talking about how Rhino broke out another time or something like that. And they were saying that, we're just going to put him in a higher security lockup thing this time. And he's like, he's a giant guy in a metallic suit that can level buildings. Why wasn't he in the most secure cell already?
Yeah.
It's just that's funny. Yeah. Just the yell, everything about him. He is
great.
To me.
Whoever acted him did really good in that.
I didn't think he could top J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
But he gave him a run for his money.
Yeah, he
pretty
did.
hilarious.
But you can't see him. So
that's true.
I enjoyed him as well. And some of the new DLC, there's I don't remember if he did it in the main story, but he has some retractions.
Ooh.
In the DLC, he talks about Hammerhead, which is in the Turf Wars DLC. Hammerhead's like the mob boss with the metal plate that kills folks, and he's trying to get New York back on top. He's trying to fix New York, but and that's his public opinion. And J. Jonah Jameson's like, yeah, we need to get back to the old New York. We're not going to let these these mafia dons stop us. We're not going to let this and this happen. I'm with Hammerhead or whatever. And then like Hammerhead starts killing cops. Hammerhead's doing like all this bad stuff. And then he comes over the podcast thing again. He says, I need to make a retraction. It turns out, and he says all this stuff, and he says, like, I do not condone. I don't remember, don't quote me on that, because those aren't exact quotes, but essentially he's all for Hammerhead, and then he comes back and has to retract.
I have a retraction to make.
And he is a dynamic character throughout as well, because sometimes he has to give, Spider-Man some credit.
Yeah.
At the very end, I think he does. He gives Spider-Man a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
Not a lot, a little bit.
just what he's owed.
Exactly, just what he's owed, which is not a lot.
So, Mary Jane. Starts off, Mary Jane and Peter Parker ain't buddies. They're not. We don't even know each other anymore. I mean, they're not. They're not seeing each other at all. Yeah.
Then we meet Mary Jane in an art exhibit. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get some papers. Mary Jane's trying to get some papers for the paper.
Yeah.
And we see her, and he's like, "Oh, I know whose camera this is." And then she shows up. She saves his life.
Yeah.
She says she saves his life a lot. She does a couple times, but like if there's one guy pointing a gun at Spider-Man, he didn't save his life. So he's okay.
He could have got that.
He could have handled that. But then that starts your Mary Jane missions, and she's stealthing. She's helping out Spider-Man, and their relationship is put on the rocks a little bit because Peter still wants to be with her. It's evident from the very beginning that he would like to be with her still, but they kind of separated because he has to be Spider-Man, and he's always treating her like the damsel in distress. I think that's part of their problem.
Yeah, for sure.
And that increases throughout because Mary Jane does some things. Peter's very upset with her, not angry, but he's like, you can't do that. You're going to get yourself hurt, and I have to keep saving you and everything. And she's very upset. She doesn't want to be saved.
This is why we broke up, Peter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be saved. She can handle herself.
Yeah.
So she thinks. But in the end, they kind of reach an agreement that she's going to do her thing, he's going to do his thing, and he'll save her if need be, I guess.
Yeah.
But the point was she wants
more
trust.
And she'll save him if need be.
Yeah. She wants more trust.
Yeah.
And they come to a good agreement, and they get back together.
And that's one thing about at the end, whenever Aunt May dies, it kind of just, you were talking about the whole all human beings need a father thing. For me, I just am uncomfortable when there's a man that doesn't have like a prominent woman in his life. So whenever Aunt May died, I was like, oh man, what is Peter going to do? And then I see that him and Mary Jane get back together. It's like, oh boy's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You got a lady taking care of him.
Exactly.
But yeah. So the Mary Jane stuff, I love the story. I love the dynamic with her and Peter. The one thing that I would like to say is that a lot of the stealth things, just from a purely gameplay perspective, they dragged.
They did drag a little bit.
And a lot of the times whenever they started, I was just like, oh god, this again, really? I just want to swing around. I just want to fight people.
That's true.
I don't want to, A
lot of times it comes to the point where you're like, I really want to go punch whoever it is I need to punch, but before that, we got to do Mary Jane.
15 minutes earlier. Oh my god.
I felt that way a couple of times, but I did think for a narrative purpose, they served a good. You found out some things. There was some context to if Mary Jane was just always coming over to the phone and saying like, Peter, I found this thing that's going to really close the deal on this thing we're trying to do. It would be less effective, I think. But the fact that we saw her
actually doing things, taking an active part in the story, not just sitting around. More real. Yeah, they did a good job with it. Good job.
But those were a little bit boring. Maybe once we got the taser, once
again, pacing. My only issue with this game is pacing.
Okay,
but So then the end, or is that what we're going into?
Let's talk about Miles real quick.
Let's talk about Miles.
So Peter gets a new buddy. In also another dark moment, when that explosion goes off, Peter's laying on the ground unconscious. Yeah. Mary Jane is crying and screaming his name. Heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy stuff. Real heavy.
Did you think he was going to die, Keith?
I was concerned. I was concerned that because Miles was there, and I knew
Miles was going to be Spider-Man for the rest of the game.
It's like I knew that Miles somehow becomes like a weird Spider-Man character, in a different universe, and I was like,
"It's happening."
I was like 80% sure no.
Yeah.
But there's just a little bit, especially when I started to play as Miles.
Yeah.
I was like,
they planted some seeds. This could get weird.
I was like, Sony, kill whoever you like. But don't kill Spider-Man.
Please don't. Not in Spider-Man.
Don't kill Spider-Man.
The game is just called Spider-Man.
Exactly. So Peter and Jefferson Davis are friends a little bit before Jefferson Davis dies. So Peter kind of feels a little bit of responsibility for Miles because if you really think about it, without Peter going to look for that stuff at that warehouse, Jefferson Davis would never have received that medal.
Yeah.
Which if he would never receive that medal, he would not have died. That explosion.
Yeah. Peter really goes out of his way to blame himself for things, though.
But I mean, there's no reason he had to go to that warehouse at that moment. You know, I think I can understand why he would feel some guilt.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he knows it was his choices that led to his death. You know, he didn't have to drive that truck into that person, you know.
I guess.
Or that car. But, I mean, I think it paints a bit of a picture that at a certain point, Spider-Man a little bit is to blame for this death. A little bit.
Yeah.
So I think he does feel some responsibility for Miles.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of takes him under his wing a little bit, gets him the job at Feast, like you said. And then there was a moment that you enjoyed, I know. Whenever...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you want to talk about that?
Where I think Miles is walking to his first day at the job.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And those crooks start getting at him or whatever. And then
the cookie cutter thugs.
Yeah, the cookie cutter thugs, of course.
I'd like to go to New York and meet these people that are so prevalent.
They are kind of prevalent, yeah. I mean, they don't necessarily always rob you, but you can tell, like, in a Spider-Man video game, you'd probably be a thug. Like,
I'd beat you up.
Yeah. But, what exactly did it have? I know they had a bonding moment where...
Yeah, he's trying to... So, the guys are attacking Miles, and Spider-Man jumps down there and beats him up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's about to leave. And Miles says something like... Essentially, their conversation leads to Peter like, okay, fine, I'll teach you a few things about how to fight. And he teaches him how to punch, you know?
Yeah.
And then at the end, he says, like, punch me in the face as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And then the classic, like, oh, you're pretty good, kid. You know?
Yeah. And then I remember he gives him a finger point before he leaves.
Yeah.
And then whenever Miles shows up at the homeless shelter in the next scene, Peter Parker gives him the same finger point. And
oh,
I was like,
yeah?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
cute.
because I remember Miles is telling Peter, like, I met Spider-Man or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. He gives him the same little finger point.
It makes the ending a lot better, too.
Yeah. Look what I can do. I guess it's better if I just show you. I can do it, too.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so those are all of our relationships.
Yeah. Just before we get straight into the end, we're talking about the end of the game now. I really did like how you fought Electro and Vulture at the same time.
Together.
And then you fight Rhino and Scorpion at the same time. I feel like that made both of those fights more interesting than they would have been if you were just fighting them. So if you were just fighting Rhino, you're just waiting for him to charge at you so you can pull a thing down.
Yeah.
But whenever you've also got Scorpion jumping around messing with you too. Yeah.
I imagine on Ultimate difficulty, when I get there, it's going to be real tough.
Oh, yeah.
Because of Ultimate, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I got to maintain that 100% trophy.
Weird flex, but okay.
This is my one game. I don't care about trophies in any other game. This is my one game where I want to have them all. But yeah, I also like the way that it wasn't, okay, now we got a whole arc with Rhino. We have to do a whole couple missions to find Rhino.
It's part of the same arc.
Yeah, it is. These criminals that I've fought once before are out. I got to go put them back. One mission, they're back.
Yeah. And we don't have to get their backstory again. It's like, I know these guys. I put them in prison before. And I got to put them back.
I think that was really cool. And while I was doing it, I was like, I would enjoy, a little bit of that. But also, I like that the story's not about them. Yeah. There's another top villain that this is about, and these are just super villain minions.
These are satellite villains.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like the way they did that. It didn't extend the game too far. The game was plenty long, I think.
Yeah.
So now we've put everyone back in jail. Because we need to talk about what happened. We need to set up the end. Mm-hmm. Doc Ock finds Dragon's Breath, which is an experimental thing from Oscorp, which was meant to cure diseases, but right now in its current form, it is a bioweapon, a deadly disease, a plague. So Doc Ock's plan, it seems, is to steal that, release it on New York, cause a plague, a pandemic,
and then point the finger at
Osborn. Blame Norman Osborn, the mayor of New York.
Yes, weird.
Yep.
A little strange.
Absolutely. So he does that. There's a scene where Dr. Octavius drops the Dragon's Breath. There's a plague on New York City. Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about Sable. They're a new... Silver Sable comes in as like mercenary villains. They're more villains for you to fight.
Guns for hire for Norman mainly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we don't need to talk about them so much. You put them away. Silver Sable helps you a little bit. But yeah, New York is sick, dying. Cut to Feast. Ooh. Aunt May coughs. Ooh. Aunt May coughs in a way that reveals to you,
this is going to be sad.
This poor lady's sick.
Yeah.
And we got to save this poor lady. It becomes, as a player for me, it became like, I'll do whatever I have to. Like Batman.
Any quick time event I need to do.
like Batman, you have to break your one rule. Spider-Man will kill.
Yeah.
If you let me, I will kill for Aunt May.
So what you're telling me is that you would have cured Aunt May and said New York can
No,
die.
I wouldn't have done that. But if the choice was kill Dr. Octavius and Aunt May lives, I would put a fist through his head. That would have been like a bloody Walking Dead face beat down.
Yeah.
You don't take Aunt May. So I'm worried already.
Yeah.
I'm worried.
The whole time you're fighting Doc Ock, you're just like, oh, she's okay.
Yeah, I'm worried. So the climax, Doc Ock is holding Norman Osborn over the city of New York.
This might be my favorite moment of the whole game, Keith.
Okay, you bring it.
Just where Norman Osborn lays into him, so she calls him a failure, all this stuff, and then Doc Ock just looks so mad and just so hurt, and then he just drops him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Spider-Man comes in and saves him, but just that moment was powerful.
Yeah.
Like Doc Ock's face, the way it was just like Norman Osborn was saying everything that Doc Ock has felt about the situation for so long, and he's like, I don't know, it hit me.
And he's not, and the whole thing is he's not killed before. He's a scientist.
Yeah.
This is his first I'm ending your life with this motion.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big moment for him that like I'm a supervillain now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the deaths I've caused with the plague, but I'm a supervillain. I will drop you off this and I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good moment because they're having this conversation and they're old friends. They used to be best buds.
They were like roommates in college or lab partners or something, right? Yeah.
Yep. And I'm certain that I'm sure they knew Peter's father, didn't they, back in the day?
Probably.
I don't think they mentioned that, but that's just how super.
So Peter's father was he a scientist in this game?
Yeah.
Or was that just...
we don't know anything about him in this game. I thought he was a scientist.
The only game that I know, or the only story I know of where he was, because in the Sam Raimi movies he wasn't, they never talk about his parents, do they?
We see him at some point in the
because I know in the Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield or whatever, I know that there was like a whole mystery about Peter Parker's father that they were gonna get to eventually, but then that series got canceled.
Right.
So I don't know, but yeah. Anyways,
I don't know anything about him. I don't know why I mentioned that. I just know there's always a superhero reason for the parents being dead.
Yeah, that's true.
So that moment, big time. He also has the one vial of Dragon's Breath that can be used to go backwards and make a cure. And that's what Spider-Man's after. So we have our first fight with Doc Ock, our first scuffle with him, and we lose.
Where was the first one?
I don't remember. To be honest with you,
the only thing I'm thinking about, I'm picturing the Doc Ock fight, and we're on top of that building with that big tower in the middle, and we're swinging around it.
When we defeat Mr. Negative, and we have that big scene with Mr. Negative, and he makes himself the big creature. Yeah. After that, in that cutscene, that's when we're going for the vial. And then Doc Ock comes in after that, after we beat that boss, and it's a cutscene where we get the crap beat out of us.
Yeah.
He rips our suit up, takes the vial.
Yeah.
And then we have to go make a new suit.
Yeah.
To defeat Dr. Octavius.
And it's swag.
It's pretty swag.
And it matches Doc Ock's suit, kind of. Yeah.
Because it's yellow. It's called the Dr. Doc Ock suit or something, know.
But it's black and yellow, baby.
Black and yellow.
It's pretty swag.
It is very cool, and we go and we have to beat Dr. Octavius. Of course, we appeal to his humanity. We appeal to his relationship with us, but he's too far gone because of the thing in his neck. So we beat him up, and we beat him up so bad that at the end of that boss fight, we grab the vial. We have the vial. We kick him through a window. We bust up his back so bad that he can't use his arms, and he is laying half upside down on a table in a room. Completely, he is laid low. We have won. Spider-Man has won.
Tries hitting you with some stuff though.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man
has won.
Spider-Man has won. His job is over. Now we're Peter Parker, standing there with a guy we used to look up to, and that's when I don't think I cried there. I'm almost about to. But Peter Parker is about to lose because of that. Do you remember any direct quotes from that?
Not really. I just remember him trying to, trying to hold, which he tried in the original Spider-Man 2 movie, where he's like, "Oh, now that the thing's broken, I'm back to normal.
Yeah.
It made me do all that stuff," and he's trying to guilt Peter into doing it, and he's like, "Don't call the cops on me. I'm just gonna be in jail with no arms for he's just laying there, and he's like, he can barely move already, and it's just like laying the guilt on him, making him feel bad." Yeah.
And Peter's
don't take my arms away from me.
Yeah. Peter's the consensus is you made me do this. You made me I asked you not to. I looked up to you. You were like a father to me. You're all these things. He's like, and now because Dr. Octavius says something, and Peter turns around and says something to himself he's saying sometimes we have to make the hard Dr. Ock was justifying his stuff. We have to make the tough decisions. We have to make the hard decisions. And Peter turns around and is like, yeah, no. He of course. Then he has to leave.
Yeah.
And he leaves him to
just.
Yeah.
Peter. Yeah, it's sad.
Rough.
And then whenever they throw him into you see him get arrested and you see him get thrown into the jail cell and he's just like on the bench or whatever, can barely really move. You can tell he's in pain and it's just like, oh man. Yeah.
No winners.
It's rough.
No winners.
Except for Spider-Man. Not Peter Parker though.
Yep. Exactly. Now, cut to the hospital.
It's just getting sadder, Keith.
Where Aunt May is laid up in bed. And she is sick with the plague. Last couple breaths in her. And this is what's rough.
Yeah.
It's Spider-Man standing there. Spider-Man in his costume is standing over her. And he says, Doc, I've got the thing. We can cure everybody now, right? And the doctor says, we have to take it and make a cure out of it. And he says, well, what about this lady? Because they're in her room.
Yeah.
He's like, what about this lady here? What about this woman? He's like, well, you can either give it, as it stands now, we can use it to fix one person, or we can take it and make a cure and hopefully cure everybody who hasn't, succumbed to it already. And Peter Parker, Spider-Man grips this thing. Yeah. And he makes it. It would have been really cool to let you make the decision, but you can't. Yeah. Spider-Man makes the one decision. Yeah. And it would never make sense for him not to.
Yeah.
And he gives the thing over. Knowing that high probability, this means Aunt May's going to die.
And do you remember what Aunt May says to him?
Yes. I do remember.
That is the part that was very close to making me cry.
Because Peter, Spider-Man, through tears behind his mask says, everything's going to be all right, ma'am. As he's holding back tears. And Aunt May, says, come here. I want to see my grandson. Oh, shoot!
Yeah, take that mask off. I want to see my nephew.
Yeah, my nephew. Yeah. Sorry, and that's when my tear ducts became active.
Yeah.
Because
wouldn't it have been lame though if he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and he took his mask off and it was a black guy?
What do you mean?
She was going out on a limb, I'm pretty sure you're my nephew.
Oh, yeah.
She was like,
it just wasn't.
Yeah. It's I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Oh man, but yeah, that part. Because the whole thing is Spider-Man is doing his best to be Spider-Man, but he's still a person. He cares about this. He loves this woman who's about to die, and she knowingly is about to die. And he's like, so you knew? I didn't know you know. And she said, well, I've known for a while. And he's crying now. Peter Parker with his Spider-Man mask off on the bed is crying and saying, I just didn't want you to worry. And she's like, I did. Yeah. I did a lot. And I don't remember what they say, but she probably tells him she's proud of him. I don't remember exactly what they say. And
proud of you, I love you.
Yeah. And then, it's crazy. It's just, what really broke me as well is the next part is just Spider-Man. She dies. So, or he pounds on the bed. He's upset. He's crying. And we hear the beeps. Beep.
Yeah.
Beep. Beep. And then the screen goes black.
Yeah.
And for a second you think, okay, it's going to let us, maybe in the sequel we'll find out.
Yeah.
And then in the blackness, beep. I remember being on the video going, what? They killed Aunt May.
What?
Dude, that scene, in my opinion, games I've played, nostalgia, everything wrapped up, the best video game scene I've experienced.
I can't argue with you, Keith.
I'm not asking you to agree because I know you've got all kinds of other stuff going in there. But for me personally,
it's good, Keith. It's good.
And at the end, Miles is bit by a spider, and he reveals that he has some cool powers.
Yep.
And finally, Norman Osborn reveals that Harry, who we thought had been in Europe being treated for a sickness, has actually had him in this weird floaty thing, and Harry's got some weird powers.
Yeah, some weird hobgoblin Spider-Man powers, weird stuff. So Keith, real quick before we end this today, Keith.
Yep.
What is Spider-Man 2? What is Marvel's Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 5? What does it look like? What is the setup for the plot?
I don't think we fight any of these original villains again.
Yeah.
Norman returns. Wilson Fisk has something to do with some stuff. Green Goblin maybe.
Definitely Hobgoblin.
I would
Harry.
think Hob.
I feel like you're fighting Harry.
Harry is something.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we don't really know what. It's kind of this weird Venom situation. But I don't think they would make Harry Osborn Venom.
Yeah.
They've stuck to comic book stuff.
Maybe he's like a hobgoblin with some Spider-Man like powers.
Sure.
Something like that. I don't know.
I don't have any idea.
I think it's... All I know is we're probably going to be fighting Harry or Norman, and we're probably going to be teaming up with Miles.
Yeah. I'm worried. If not, I wonder if we're going to be Miles. Because I'm worried... Because if you think about it, what are they going to change about the mechanics of this game to make it a sequel? Like, are they going to take away all the gadgets I used to have and give me new gadgets?
That's true.
That doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not going to punch different. I'm not going to dodge different. I'm not going to swing different.
Maybe you are Miles, but Peter's still part of the story?
Maybe so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any clue. I'm a little bit worried, to be honest with you, because a lot of games have suffered from, like, there's just not enough you can change.
Yeah.
Whenever you... I mean, there's so much difference between Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3 for PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little bit worried, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if the next one will be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. All I can say is that after 2018, PlayStation 5 is looking good, Keith. God of War 2, Spider-Man 2, it's going to be good. It's going to be good times,
it's gonna be good.
baby.
Guess what?
What?
I'm going to cry when Kratos dies.
Yeah. Probably going to be God of War 3. I feel like we're going for another trilogy.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think Kratos, after, like, they reveal his death in the end of this one, we're gonna make it all the way to 3 before he dies?
Wait. What do you mean they reveal his death?
Remember we walked past that tapestry and there's Atreus right there with dead Kratos.
Yeah, maybe it would be in God of War 2. Yeah. No, Kratos was going to die in God of War 2, and then God of War 3 is going to be your playing as Atreus.
That's what we predicted, at least.
Yeah.
Lock it in, folks.
Lock it in.
This has been a good game talk. This has been a good spoiler situation here for Spider-Man. I love this game. This game is an absolute 10 out of 10 for me. Mm-hmm. I experienced no shortcoming. I didn't. It's like without ever having played anything Spider-Man or knowing anything Spider-Man, 8.5.
Yeah.
Blanket all the backlog of the Spider-Man nostalgia and how much I care about Spider-Man, 10 out of 10. It covers every sin.
Yeah. So this is a 10 out of 10 from you?
It's an absolute 10 out of 10.
You want me to drop my rating on it?
Hit it.
9.3.
Okay.
It's an A, but it's I don't want to say it's the lowest A. But basically, I don't want to spoil things for our GOTY thing, but this game's probably not going to be my GOTY. We're probably going to have an argument about it, Keith. So stay tuned for that, folks.
But in the meantime, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to us about our opinions about Spider-Man. I know I said some things wrong. I know Will said some... I don't know if he did. But he might have said some things wrong.
I did.
And we know that there's plenty that you can talk to us about. So please do that. Kevin, we look forward to your comment. Everyone else, we look forward to yours. We will see you in the next video. We love you very much.
Yes, how's it going, buddy? Kazak, how you doing? Look, man, I told you, all crossover requests, just send them to my email. It's, wait, who? Wait, Matt Marrero? Yeah, I know him. Like, in person, I know him. He wants us to do a guest spot on those guys on the radio. Look, man, I get it's a big opportunity, but it's charity, man. It is. It's charity. Look, he's got what? Him and Tristan, they got what? 56 million subs? And what? He just wants to bring us into his network and skyrocket us to fame through association, and then all of a sudden we owe stuff to, why? Just because me and him went to Nintendo New York together and watched the E3 live stream whatever together and had a good time, he thinks that no, man, he would own us. He would look, man, I get it could be, look, man, they're not even on the radio. They're just, I'm deleting your number, Kazak. Get in the ball, lick a tongue.